State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. These services are 100% free, so visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we strive to provide you with the right coverages for all your insurance needs by taking the time to meet with you and review what coverages best fit your needs. So whether you're in the market for home, auto, farm, business, life, or a combination of any of these coverages, we can help with making sure you, your family, or your business have the right coverage based on your individual needs. If you would like to review your insurance needs, please contact Ben Spurt with Farm Bureau Financial Services at 402-217-9945 or through email at ben.spurt@fbfs.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning. Now in our new time, we're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Welcome into the locker room, the most sacred of spaces in sports. Talking you through the behind-the-scenes conversations that happen behind closed doors with former Nebraska football tight end Chancellor Brewington.
Chancellor Brewington, the 6-year senior tight end, finding his way into the end zone.
And former South Dakota State running back and Nebraska football assistant, Mikey Daniel.
Hand off to Daniel inside the 2 to the 1, and he powers his way into the end zone for a South Dakota State touchdown.
This is The Locker Room, brought to you by Pep Foundation Repair. Here are your hosts, Chancellor Brewington and Mikey Daniel.
Yes, welcome into the locker room here on 93.7 The Ticket. Happy to be with you. Happy to have Chancellor Brewington in studio to talk about a winning season for Nebraska after winning the bowl game in New York, the Pinstripe Bowl over Boston College. Of course, there's been a lot going on, so a lot to talk about. Chancellor, how's it going?
It's going great. It's going great, man. I'm glad to be back in the locker room with my main man, Bach, and get to have a great show with y'all, beautiful individuals, wherever you're listening from, whether you're listening on YouTube, radio, you're driving in your car, wherever. We appreciate you, and I hope, as always, you're having a great day. And if it isn't a great day, make it a great day, because you got the power to do so. And we usually always start off with some type of quote card, some type of encouragement. And the encouragement or the quote card today, it's the saying that's inscribed, Bach, on the Delphi, Greece, right now, in the Temple of Apollo. It says on top of it, it says, "Know thyself." It says, "Know thyself," in big, big letters, arching over the Apollo temple. It says, "Know thyself." And to know thyself, it might mean something different to everyone. And I think that's why it's such a beautiful quote. And it's, I read a lot of books, and it's a quote that is always brought up in books. It's, seminars I listen to, it's always brought up. And I think it's the basis of personal development. I think it's the basis of success. I think we get in this world of we have to know, X, Y, Z about, education and different skill sets and all these different things. But I think the basis of, true success, I think in life, peace, is knowing thyself. And I think by knowing yourself, you have to obviously examine yourself. And by examining yourself, you kind of dig up what I like to call like some subconscious conditionings, right? Why we do certain things, why we talk a certain way, why we get up at a certain time, why we feel a certain way when a certain subject is brought up, and it's pretty awesome stuff once you embark on that journey. And I'll tell you this, once you embark on it, it's kind of super uncomfortable to get to know yourself. Because I think, by acknowledging or by getting to knowing yourself, you have to acknowledge first that you kind of don't know yourself, right? And that's kind of an uncomfortable feeling. And I don't think most people, because the human body or human nature loves comfortability, right? They don't like to be outside their comfort zone. And I think knowing yourself, that's a journey that, maybe few go on, but I think it's one of the most rewarding journeys of all time, is the process of knowing yourself. And, try to tie this back to Nebraska football, I think they're going to go on this journey of knowing themselves and knowing what it really takes to win. We've obviously, Nebraska and Lincoln and wherever you're a fan from has experienced Nebraska in the 90s, right, Bach? We've experienced the almost nirvana feeling of being, at the top of Mount Everest, right? And then we've experienced the literally being in the valley, like literally being the best 3-9 team of all time. 2021 was a part of it, right? So I think we now are kind of in I wouldn't say the middle ground. I would say we're closer to the 3-9 than to the top of Mount Everest, right? But we're climbing, right? And I think we have to establish, or this team has to establish, and I think as a fan base, you can establish what it is and where Nebraska needs to go. And I think having the end in mind is the key to all this. And maybe for some people, Bach, it's a Big Ten championship. That's Mount Everest for them, right? But for some people, and I think this is where we kind of live in the gap, meaning, we see ourselves there, but we're here. So we're living in the gap of this idea that we have to be national champions. And we talked about this before of the 90s coming back to Nebraska. Well, I think the Mount Everest for this team in particular, man, for real, was a winning season. And some people can see this year as a failure. I don't know if I technically believe in failure. I think I believe in gradual steps. I believe in orderly sequence of growth. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this Nebraska season. I see it as a success. I see it as they had an opportunity, of course, to be much better than what they were. But at the end of the day, one of my favorite authors, Neville Goddard, says, when you first have to change your reality, to change your results, you got to change your self-conception. And so that's why I bring it back to know thyself. I think Nebraska is going to go on this journey of knowing themselves. And I think adding in pieces, we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it. I talked about Austin. Shout out Austin Orman. We talked about, the transfer portal pieces, bringing in Oklahoma transfer, bringing in the Cal transfer, Kentucky, all these different transfers in. I think those pieces are going to do really good for Nebraska, of course. But I think it's still a process of there's some undealt issues, in Nebraska. And I don't mean I don't necessarily mean like external problems of this, and this. I think it's really a self-identity thing of who are we and who we are setting out to be. And I'll continue to say this, Bach. I think the chasing 3 whole ordeal might have set us back, right? Because I think you're already establishing an identity of lack. You're already establishing an identity of we don't have, right? And we have to get it, right? Instead, just establish the identity that we already are winners. We're winners and we dominate wherever we go. But for this specific win, what were your initial, and for the people listening, put in the chat box, text it in. What were your initial reaction to this win versus Boston College in the Pinstripe Bowl in New York?
Well, I think it's interesting if you actually break down the game. There's some special teams gaffes. There's the big lead, and then kind of letting it go. So there's some things to get mad about. There's a lot of things to be excited about.
Right.
The seniors, kind of in my mind, Ramir Johnson winning the MVP. You had some fake punt stuff with seniors like this Jamal Banks. They had a lot of good senior play. You had a lot of good freshmen, guys that we hadn't seen get on the field and play. And so, specific to that game, there's a lot of things to break down, but just kind of going through what you were saying, it kind of brings me back to what I've been saying for years here is that Nebraska finally, and it might be in the margins. It might be just, this bowl win where Boston College's best players didn't sit out, whatever it may be, but Nebraska finally is a winner. And it's not building to be a winner. It is a winning team and it is a winning culture. And that's what I've said for around here. And I've said since 2016, they've had a losing culture. And that's not to say that their heads are hanging low or they're not, you don't have the right mindset. They just, quite frankly, didn't win more games than they lost.
Right.
And so maybe it's not the biggest step forward. Like you said, I think there's people that could easily change a few plays here and there. You have 9 wins. We're all a lot happier about it. But just to get to the winning side of things, you just kind of breathe this big sigh of relief and say, you know what? We did take a step forward this year that hasn't been taken in years and years. And yes, we had some problems along the way. We had to change our staff. And again, it's a win in the margins. It's against Boston College to finally get over 500. But one way or the other, this is a winning program once again. And that was my biggest takeaway from it altogether was, you're 7-6, not the goal, but at least a step forward.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you. And, maybe I'll push back on, I guess the only pushback I'll have is that maybe it was a losing mindset and we didn't even know it, like speaking of the guys in the locker room during that time, now that I think back, maybe it was, maybe it was the losing mindset that caused all this stuff. And maybe we thought what was a winning mindset really wasn't. And so, I was something that I just thought of, but for this Boston College win was okay. Let's answer this truthfully. Do you think Boston College was a good football team?
I don't think that version of Boston College was particularly good. I think if you put in the ACC Defensive Player of the Year and a tackle that might get picked pretty high in the NFL draft, that can change some things. But those guys set out.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I would agree that probably an average team. Based off the wins we had, I wouldn't put them Purdue level, of course. I wouldn't put them that low. I'd probably put them around that like UCLA mark. That's a game we should have won, of course. But no, I don't know if that was a particularly really good or a good football team. I think it was a pretty average football team. I would say a 6-win bowl team, right? Kind of where we were, right?
Yeah.
And I think you saw during that game pretty early on that Nebraska was the more talented team, right? You kind of saw, the Ty Robs, the Nashes, the flashes of Deshaun Singleton, the flashes of Raiola, Jamal Banks, and you kind of matched that productivity and just pure talent and gifts with what Boston College had. I think anyone with a bit of intelligence would say, yeah, Nebraska's a better squad all the way around. We went through, me and Harrison, but on the pregame, we went through and we kind of graded out where Boston College was better or where Nebraska was better. And we kind of gave them grades, who had the nod here and there. I think now looking at the game, because I didn't watch a whole bunch of Boston College this year. I think Nebraska's way better at almost all positions, right? Maybe a slight nod, maybe in the receiver game. Boston College did have some pretty good receivers. Maybe there, maybe in the defensive back, maybe though. It's a toss up. But for the most part, Nebraska was the better talented team. That being said, I think for me, the biggest thing during that Boston College game was I was thinking in the future. I was thinking about the portal additions being brought in. We talked about the Cal receiver. We talked about what's his face, the Oklahoma linebacker coming in. So I think about that, and now I think about, okay, if they were to be in the system right now, how much better would this team be, right? And what areas in the system can they do differently, right? And they can excel. One position that is kind of under, I would say we'll have a big transition is the rover position, right? And Gifford, I don't think people realize how much Gifford played a role in this defense, because the rover is control of the back end, but also it's this thing where he's in communication with the linebackers and all these different things, right? And that was a leader on the defense. Right. And I don't know if you're going to get a lead. I don't know if you're going to get a leader in the transfer portal or a leader, on the team that will be brought in that position. But I do know that you need a real specific skill set for that rover position. And I heard the captain talking about this, right? I heard, them mention Javen right there, or the Oklahoma guy. I don't know who it is, right? I really don't, based on because of skill set, right? You need a guy who can not only come into the box and play in the box on rare occasions, right? And, maybe relieve some pressure, but you also have to play man on a tight end. And also, I mean, let's say a tight end gets split out wide, you might be matched up on a slot receiver, right? And, just really depending on who's that third receiver, meaning like who's flexed out closest to the tackle, right? What receivers, you got to play man sometimes. Sometimes you got to play sometimes you got to be in the middle of posts, right? So I don't know if Javen Wright or, the Oklahoma guy kind of fits that skill set. Or maybe maybe they switch it up and it's more like a Buford, right? Or, something like that. I don't really know. But I think of how Holgrenson, especially on the offense, would go back and watch this game, right? Because now you're not watching it with Jamal Banks and, some of these pieces that are leaving. You're watching it as if Hunter's in there and the Kentucky receivers in there and all these different transfers are on this team. And now you I talk about this. Holgrenson probably had 20 new plays into this offense. That's my estimate, right? I would say USC probably added in 5, probably added in, a couple more for the Wisconsin game, a couple more for Iowa. And then during that 2-week period of practicing, you probably added in, I don't know, I probably get up to around 20, right? Maybe give or take, right? And so now I wonder if we're going to get a complete flush of this system now, because you have winter workouts where you're doing walkthroughs and, Riola's throwing with the receivers, all that good stuff. And then you got spring ball where they're implementing new installs. Then you got summer workouts where the guys are going through walkthroughs again and, running through some, situation, getting the playbook down again. And then you got fall camp. So, implement a new offense. That's very doable. That's not anything crazy. Pretty standard. And so now I wonder what type of things Holgrenson wants to do with the, new guys coming in. And one thing I talked about with you, and we've talked about it, what is the prime or the ideal receiver for Raiola? And I said, this is my personal opinion, right? And I would love to know yours. I said a 6'1", 6'2" guy who can run routes. I don't know if I need a speedster, right? I don't know if I need a guy who, just runs fast. I need a guy who can run routes, because at the end of the day, a good route runner, I would take him all day over a speedster. And especially with the way Raiola plays, he's all about timing. If you watch his game, I mean, he's sitting back. His footwork is very, very, very detailed, right? And so his feet are always set, or most of the time they're set, right? Feet are usually set. And that being said, he's expecting for the breaks at a certain time, expecting, receivers to sit down in certain coverages. So I think a guy that runs good routes, a receiver that I would have loved for him to be matched up with was like a Samori Toure. That would be like my ideal guy for Dylan Raiola, a guy that runs crisp routes, a high IQ guy. We saw Samari burn some guys, right? Can stretch the field, of course, but wins on third down. And I think you need to surround Raiola with maybe a couple options that consistently win on third down. I think Raiola is going to take a really big jump from freshman to sophomore year. And I think most of it will be in the body development and going from, 19 to 20 years old or wherever he's going to, because, you kind of get that in that grown man strength, right? You kind of get in that feel for your body. I remember, from freshman to sophomore year, that's your first full year in a college weight room system where Coach Campbell can really, examine your body and say, okay, this is what you need. This is what you don't need, right? Like some guys are, Ja'Cory Barney might need to build a little bit more base in his legs than Raiola, right? It's just a different program for everyone. And I think the acclimation period probably for college football, like getting your weight and all these things in, is probably like around a year and a half, like to where your body gets I wouldn't say fully developed, but gets acclimated to college football and all these different things, right? Even the young guys being brought in December, January and playing, a full year. I don't know if their body really, that 6 months before the season really got up to, an acclimation period, right? So those are just initial big things that I think of when I was looking at the bowl game. I'm thinking about the bowl game. Obviously, I'm watching it, right? But I'm thinking in the future, right? I'm thinking about, what John Butler needs to do or needs to have for this defense to thrive. What Holgrenson needs for this offense to take off. What Raiola needs, and kind of meshing that under Rule system, right? Because at the end of the day, all has to funnel through what Rule wants and what Rule has, his vision for the program. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially, when you talk about Holgrenson and what they want to do with that offense, is that, he was in charge of it for 4 games. And of course, we all like the 44 points you put up against Wisconsin. But in those 3 other games, they didn't get above 20 points. And, scored 10 against Iowa. So you just wonder. You just wonder what that offense is going to look like next year. And then the other thing is I like the wide receivers that they're getting. I think Isaiah Hunter, could be a big-time get. Obviously, Dane Key's a big-time get in the portal. But they need protection, too. And you're losing tackles that, better or for worse, have been around the program for a long time. And they haven't found anybody to take their spot. Now they need to.
Yeah.
And maybe you found one in Gotula, but it just feels like they need to add a little bit out of the portal, too, to allow everything else that they've grabbed out of the portal or developed in a Barney's case or Emmett Johnson's case to allow those guys to shine.
Yeah. And I think one thing for me, I think it's all about momentum in the portal is I think guys are, especially in this day and age, and this is no knock, but I think guys kind of gravitate towards, X, Y, Z is going there. Let me check out or, just feel out, what's going on here. How's the program going? Oh my gosh, Nebraska's getting a lot of attention in the portal. What's going on there? Right. It might pique someone's interest a little bit more to see some higher profile guys going to a certain school. Right. It might, some guys might imply, okay, this school, has something going. Now when Coach Rule talks or, whoever's recruiting them, Holgrenson, John Butler, whoever's recruiting them, you kind of, now you're kind of, okay, like there's a little bit of persuasion, a little bit of influence now from external sources from, this player, whatever. And I think Raiola's a big get. And I think we need to find a tackle. I think the priority now, you got your receivers, right? We talked about receivers. We need them, right? Now, I would say the O-line is the priority on getting the right guys there. Because you don't want to just get a guy who's played at a big school. You need a guy with some snaps.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a question off the text lines. Keep sending those in, 402-464-5685. We'll address that, talk more Nebraska football coming up next with Chancellor Brewington in the locker room on 93.7 The Ticket.
League One Volleyball is bringing the action to Omaha with Omaha's first serve on January 24th at 7 p.m. Central Time at the Liberty First Credit Union Arena. Witness history in the making as Love Omaha Volleyball takes on Love Madison in the team's inaugural home match. Be there to watch Olympic teammates Jordan Larson and Lauren Carlini go head-to-head in a battle of the world's best. Visit lovboma.com for tickets starting at $31. Volleyball is the next major league.
Every home is different. Every family is different. So when it comes to a new heating and cooling system, why not get what fits you best? Get the perfect fit with Bryant. Maybe you need higher efficiency, better humidity control, increased warranty, or all the bells and whistles. Bryant provides options in warranty, brand, comfort, and efficiency while maximizing savings. Call 467-1111 or visit BryantLincoln.com. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, fog and drizzle expected throughout the day. Otherwise, cloudy skies with a high around 47. Tonight, mainly clear, but patchy fog possible, the low near 30. And tomorrow, patchy fog in the morning and mainly sunny for the afternoon. We'll see a high around 52. I'm meteorologist Kyle Bucker from 93.7 The Ticket and TicketFM.com.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstorats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we strive to provide you with the right coverages for all your insurance needs by taking the time to meet with you and review what coverages best fit your needs. So whether you're in the market for home, auto, farm, business, life, or a combination of any of these coverages, we can help with making sure you, your family, or your business have the right coverage based on your individual needs. If you would like to review your insurance needs, please contact Ben Spurt with Farm Bureau Financial Services at 402-217-9945 or through email at ben.spurt@fbfs.com.
Have you been accused of a crime and don't know where to turn? At Liberty Law Group, we understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you're up against the legal system, you need an advocate you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. Liberty Law's experienced trial attorneys are committed to the defense of liberty for those accused. Don't let a criminal charge ruin your life. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group, trial attorneys you need, advocates you deserve. That's 877-42-LIBERTY or libertylawnebraska.com.
It's the holiday season. Time for work parties, friend get-togethers, family gatherings, which means lots of eating. Maybe you think you've perfected your holiday meals, and maybe you have no idea where to even start. Let's fix that right now. No holiday party is complete without Führer's cheese spread. It goes well with any type of cracker, pretzels, apples, chili, vegetables, chips, and of course, it's perfect to pair with wine or beer. Holiday meals aren't complete until Führer's cheese spread is on the table. Find your own container at your nearest local grocery store today.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
New year, new you? Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping can help make sure you keep that resolution this time. Our proven system combines kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition, along with our expert coaching to make sure you're moving forward toward your goals. The next 10-week challenge starts January 11th. But if you enroll now, you can start today and get a head start on those gains for no extra cost. Plus, head to fxblincoln.com and you can save $100. Don't wait. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill and 70th and Vine.
Early break. He brings him in and teaches him how to be Santa Claus.
But what do you do if like a 16-year-old wants to sit on the lap? What do you do? There's no protocol.
Protocol. What do we do? How do we handle it? Not
you
so
stand.
fast.
Yeah.
This is crazy. I'm going to stand up next to you.
Clause would not approve. Right.
Bunch of college girls.
Right. No. Oh, becomes no.
Early break from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the K&TK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeit. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
You're listening to The Locker Room with Chancellor Brewington and Mikey Daniel. Brought to you by App Foundation Repair on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back here in the locker room on 93.7 The Ticket with your host, Chancellor Brewington, in studio. You can send your questions in if you want to, 402-464-5685, and we can try to get to them. Bill in Benton asked Chancellor this: how would you address the special teams issues during the offseason?
All right. We talked about this off air, Bach, and I'm gonna put it in the plainest terms and the simplest terms. And I'm not calling for anyone's job. I think, you can figure it out internally or in-house. And there doesn't need to be a firing or any like that. But I will say this. My experience with special teams has been a good special teams coach, or not so much coach, but a good special teams program has always been like a couple things from my experience. It's first of all been a team that buys into it. And I think that starts with the players, right? So special teams period, for some guys, it's a rough period to get up for, right? It's like, it's usually right after, or right before team, right? Or right after team, or right before 7-on-7, or right after 7-on-7. So, you have your fun periods where you're competing and, you're playing, offense, defense, what you came to the school for, right? Nobody says that they come to the school to be a a left tackle on punt team, right? But you go to the school to compete at your position, right? And I played receiver, I played tight end, that kind of H-back, whatever. And being a skill guy, you kind of get plugged in everywhere, special teams, right? Skill guy can be a left tackle on KOR, a left tackle on punt team, and a gunner, can be on the kickoff team, can do punt return, can do all these things, right? So everyone has to participate, right? So I would say the number one thing is buy-in, right? So when those special teams period comes about, first of all, are your leaders getting hyped for it? Are your leaders on the team in the front of the lines? Are your leaders on the team encouraging competition? Are your leaders on your team is there an actual energy that gets, put into the special teams period, right? During meetings, first of all, are your leaders writing and taking notes? Are your leaders, paying attention? Are your leaders the ones messing up, or are they the ones executing the drill? Like, when you got special teams film, sometimes you go through the film and there's the same guys messing up. Are those your leaders? Or are those, guys on the lower thing, newer guys, right? Younger guys, guys that just came into college, right? That's the culture you want to establish, right? So I would say that's number one thing. And the number two thing, and this is just the real, right? I don't know how else to explain this, is the details, right? Inside the periods, how detailed are the periods, right? Are they a guy, it's supposed to be, step with your right, lead with your hands next, is there a false step and no one corrects it, right? And I think, once you break away into pods, we call it in football, you break away from the group, right? You break away into pods and you do certain things, right? Are the position coaches, because your receiver coach will coach the gunners, right? Or your tight ends coach will coach the shield, or your linebackers coach will coach the frontline KOR, whatever it is, right? So are those coaches, paying a lot of detail to it? Because I think special teams, yeah, you have your special teams coach, right? Obviously, everyone knows for Nebraska, it's Ed Foley, right? But I'm gonna be honest with you, he's overseeing the whole thing. There's for the, let's just do punt team, because that's what the issues were. Let's say the, guards and tackles are with the running back coach, the tight ends coach, and, Coach Foley. And then all of a sudden you got your shield with your D-line coach, or your O-line, not so much D-line, but the, let's say the outside backers and tight ends coach. And then the gunners are quarterback and receiver coaches, right? And then obviously your punter, that would probably be overseen by Coach Foley a little bit more, right? So you got broken up into all these things. So now if the shield is messing up, yeah, it's what we see is it falls back on Coach Foley. Maybe it's more of the details within the pods and what they're talking about. So that's a long-winded answer, but I will say this: I would say it's buy-in from the players, and then I would say secondly, it's the details within the periods, and then it varies from everywhere. I remember, shout out Coach Bush, early break, man, those periods were intense. Like, we competed, like it was draining. Like, guys were getting pancaked. Like, it's not like a period where at other schools, you kind of get to chill, right? It's like, you got your starters competing, you go, you're doing your, this isn't this blocking, this isn't this, like you got your starters competing. So I would say that's probably the fixes in the off season, is maybe re-examining the culture of special teams, if it needs to be bumped up a little bit more, or if the culture's already there, it's probably attention to detail thing. And to be honest, we talked about it. I mean, I think you can get a lot. You can get maybe some, I wouldn't say some guys off the street, but you can get some average college football players in, and if they pay attention to detail, and if they execute at, not so much execute, but buy into it, I think they can be good special teams guys, right? It's not like you bring in a guy to play shield on punt, right? You can get guys to do that, right? So I think for Nebraska, it's probably attention to detail thing, because I think the culture's there.
And Coach Matt Rule did address it and said that it needs a total overhaul. What would that and in the locker room you hear that, what does that mean to you?
Overhaul, I would say that might be a scheme thing. I think it addresses everything we talked about.
Yeah.
And I think the scheme also. So, I'd add in, along with the culture, along with the buy-in, along with the details, I would say maybe a scheme thing where they might bring in a, punt. I know they started off the year with the tighter splits, meaning from the long snapper to the guards on each side to the tackles, there was, smaller distance in between them. After the bye week, the coaching point or the scheme change was that they made larger splits. It kind of the distance from the ends of the tackles, right? The guys rushing is a longer distance if you measure it from punter, right? So that it kind of helped them out in the blocking scheme, right? So that was an adjustment schematically, right? So there wasn't a buy-in. I don't think it was a buy-in thing there. It was just scheme. Like the guys just needed a different scheme to play in to be more effective. So maybe that's what he's talking about. I would imagine we're probably going to see some different things, especially punt. That stuff you don't see that often, and I would say that's more of a scheme thing. And that overall, I mean, you can probably get guys on staff and in staff. We did this here, worked here. When I was at Utah and in 04, right? Like that whole thing. But I think that's what overhaul might mean.
Yeah, another question for you is just kind of thinking through it, just the way that you were saying. Is there, I guess this is kind of a two-part question. How is it decided that, who's going to play on special teams? Would players like get excited to be like, hey, I'm on the second line instead of the first line of the kick return team? And then is there an ego that goes along with special teams where certain guys have been like, hey, I don't want to be out here doing special teams?
Yeah. Truthfully, there are some, let's just be honest. If you're, let's say, Bach, you are the starting linebacker on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're the starting linebacker, you play 90% of the snaps. And so and you're on punt return too. So 3 and out on offense, you have to gear up and get ready. And that means, usually a punt is flip field. So you got to, sprint down and run 60 yards or whatever. Then on punt return, you have to cover, or you have to, block the whatever player and do this, right? So there's maybe a little bit of, energy exertion, a little bit more, right? And so on teams I've been on, probably, I mean, you don't get crazy hyped if you're the starter, right? I got to do for the team. I think that's the mindset. It's not so much like, yes, like, but I will say, guys that take that like, okay, serious and like, okay, like this is my duty to the team. Maybe I would like a breather here and there, but I signed up to play football. This is what I'm going to do. And then, the flip side of the coin is you got your freshman who's not going to play this year. He's your third string, fourth string, behind you, Bach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's going to get excited, right? But I think the problem goes is that third or fourth string doesn't have the experience that you have and doesn't move like you, isn't as strong as you, isn't as fast, right? And doesn't have the technique down just like you, right? So I think sometimes, a lot of places, some places they'll throw in the younger guy because, you need a break and whatever. But I would say at the bigger schools, and you see Bama, Coach Bush used to show us Bama 2018 of Derrick Henry on the punt team, like dogs, like Reuben Foster on the punt team, like Eddie Jackson on the punt team. Like these are dogs, like on the punt team, right? And so, I think when you look at the Georgias and programs like that, like Bach, you're gonna have to play special teams, right?
Yeah.
It's a given. So, and I think those guys, when they go to the league, like they're more overall better as a football player. Why? Because they've not only played their position, of course, because you're not going to get to the league if you don't play actual position, right? But they also established themselves on special teams. So to answer your question, I answer like that.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And then the other one too is because I always think of like, we asked a lot of different players this, but specifically the punt return guy. What makes a dynamic punt return specialist? Because we look, it's easy for like on the outside, you look at, hey, this guy's fast.
Yeah.
Hey, this guy's athletic. Why don't they give this guy a try? How do they go about narrowing who they're going to put back there, and what makes a guy specifically good at it? Where an outsider would say maybe one of these guys should be it, and they don't ever get the opportunity.
I'll say this: the punt returners I've been around, there's this one guy, Elijah Marks at NAU, right? If you watch him, he wasn't the fastest guy on the team, right? But was fast, right? There's something about a good punt returner, and I don't know if you can really put your finger on it. If you just were to see him run routes or play, defensive back, that's usually the two positions, is receiver and corner. If you were to watch those two, this guy play their respective positions, you wouldn't say, "Oh, that's a punt returner," right? A guy like Trey Palmer, fast as all get out. I don't know if he's really a punt returner, right? Was just really, really fast, right? But I will say this: punt returners have obviously a knack of making the first guy miss, right? And in whatever fashion that looks like. But also they have this knack for like running fearlessly. And I would say kick returners have that as well, of knowing a guy's running at you, being able to catch it and make a decision, make the first guy miss. But it seems like they're always moving north and south, like they're always vertical. I think sometimes in the mixtape generation that we might be in is east and west movement, lateral movement, the highlight tape stuff. But even if you watch like Devin Hester back in the day, like everything seemed like he would make a guy miss and like get north and south or lose ground to gain ground, depending on the actual direction of the kick and stuff like that. But we got a good punt returner coming in from Idaho.
That's right, yeah.
And like if you watch him, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, that's a corner." You would think that's a skill, like a receiver or a slot or whatever. So Nebraska Nation has something to looking forward to.
Yeah. Andrew Marshall. We'll see what he can add. He's got a punt return and a kick return this past year for Idaho. All right, let's take a quick break. We did talk all special teams that segment. So we'll see what we do coming up next year in the locker room on 93.7 The Ticket.
The electrical workers of local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeyman electricians from $32.50 to $42.50 per hour with paid benefits. And if you're looking for a new career, they're hiring apprentices at $19.50 per hour with paid benefits. Call the office at 402-423-4497 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Hi, my name is Molly Party. I'm a realtor with MP Dodge Real Estate. I'm a newly licensed agent and considered numerous brokerages before deciding on MP Dodge. I chose the company that gives me the most support in my new career, plus guidance and encouragement along the way. MP Dodge has a unique mentoring program for new agents. It's helped jumpstart my career and has a supportive management team and administrative staff. So if you're contemplating a career in real estate, look no further than MP Dodge. It will be the best decision you make.
Wrestling fans, it's time to elevate your game, just like Stevens & Smith Construction does for your concrete needs. As your full-service concrete contractor, we deliver solid results every time. From singles to doubles, fighting for inside position to scrambling reversals, we know how to pin down quality and slam expectations. Stevens & Smith Construction, a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket, where Husker wrestlers bring you all the action. Don't stall. Stevens & Smith Construction is here to help you build a concrete foundation for the win. Check us out at www.stevensandsmith.com because stalling is a penalty and winning is the only option. At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we strive to provide you with the right coverages for all your insurance needs by taking the time to meet with you and review what coverages best fit your needs. So whether you're in the market for home, auto, farm, business, life, or a combination of any of these coverages, we can help with making sure you, your family, or your business have the right coverage based on your individual needs. If you would like to review your insurance needs, please contact Ben Spurt with Farm Bureau Financial Services at 402-217-9945 or through email at ben.spurt@fbfs.com.
New year, new you? Barrel's Extreme Body Shaping can help make sure you keep that resolution this time. Our proven system combines kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition, along with our expert coaching to make sure you're moving forward toward your goals. The next 10-week challenge starts January 11th, but if you enroll now, you can start today and get a head start on those gains for no extra cost. Plus, head to fxblincoln.com and you can save $100. Don't wait. Barrel's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill and 70th and Vine.
Empower a child today with a Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Have you been accused of a crime and don't know where to turn? At Liberty Law Group, we understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you're up against the legal system, you need an advocate you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. Liberty Law's experienced trial attorneys are committed to the defense of liberty for those accused. Don't let a criminal charge ruin your life. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group, trial attorneys you need, advocates you deserve. That's 877-42-LIBERTY or libertylawnebraska.com.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Patriot Plumbing at 402-464-7411 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-464-7411.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I'm softball player Jordy Ball, and I'm proud of my Nebraska roots, and I'm proud to be back home. And at Midwest Bank, they're proud to be your local community bank. They believe in family first, taking initiative, showing integrity, and rolling up their sleeves to support their local communities. They treat everyone like family, no matter where you're from. Whether you walk into a branch in York, Lincoln, Norfolk, or Pierce, you know you're going to be welcomed with a smile. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank.
It's the holiday season. Time for work parties, friend get-togethers, family gatherings, which means lots of eating. Maybe you think you've perfected your holiday meals, and maybe you have no idea where to even start. Let's fix that right now. No holiday party is complete without Führer's cheese spread. It goes well with any type of cracker, pretzels, apples, chili, vegetables, chips, and of course, it's perfect to pair with wine or beer. Holiday meals aren't complete until Führer's cheese spread is on the table. Find your own container at your nearest local grocery store today.
Raising little ones is a big job, and you do your best to give them a good start every day. That means making sure they're well cared for while you're apart. You work hard, but it's not always easy to make ends meet. There may be help. Find out if you qualify for Nebraska's Child Care Tax Credit for working parents. You could be eligible for a credit of up to $2,000 per child on your next tax return. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You're listening to The Locker Room with Chancellor Brewington and Mikey Daniel. Brought to you by App Foundation Repair on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back in the locker room here on 93.7 The Ticket, and we're in a bit of a giving mood today. After all, it is the season. We've got a strawberry daiquiri dessert cake here from Beatrice Bakery. We've also got chocolate raspberry rum cake, which could be delicious as well. And we're going to give out 2 cakes here. Just text in 402-464-5685. We'll do it the way the captain did. It says, I want cake. First person, 2 people to do that, we can give them away. You can eat them yourself. You can give them away for the holidays. Give them to a neighbor, as DP was saying during his one-on-one show. So plenty of things to do there. We thank Beatrice Bakery for working with us. Once again, 402-464-5685. But for the final segment of the locker room, I know, Chancellor, you want to talk a little bit about fixing a college football problem. There are plenty of them, so I'm interested to hear which one you kind of think of here.
Yeah, so and I was just in an Uber, right? I was in an Uber in Arizona, and my Uber driver was talking about this, right? And I was thinking, I'm like, man, we got to talk about this on locker room, and the problem that everyone sees, and outside guys probably don't understand what the player goes through, of course, but I will guess I'll shed some light on the process. But the transfer portal situation, postseason, in between season and bowl game, and maybe even late season stuff. We've heard of the Washington State quarterback, going in the transfer portal, and them losing. I believe they lost pretty badly to USC this past weekend. And those things happen, right? But now you got a second string guy playing quarterback and this and this. So I would say this. The fix for this problem, I would say, is to open up the portal or close the portal until after January, right? To where you get the bulk of your bowl game out the way, right? Your bowl games in college football, right? Open it up, January 5th, January 1st, whatever it is. So now you have this mass, thing of now, first of all, coaches can focus on playing their season, right? Where they don't have to be, of course you recruit all year long, but you don't have to recruit, some transfer portal guys midway through the year or late in the year, while you're trying to make a bowl game or while you're about to go play a bowl game. And I think it will help out, the retention in these rosters a little bit more, right? You stick around for a bowl game. I'm sure some of the guys, on Nebraska would have loved to be at the bowl game in Nebraska, in New York, right? But I'll bring up this side, and some people may ask, well, why don't they just stay with the team? Well, I'll bring up the logistic side or logical side of being a football player in this day and age in college football, is that the money drives up. It's just the fact of the matter is the money dries up the later you wait in the transfer portal. So let's say, Bach, you're the middle linebacker of the Huskers, and you want to test your market value elsewhere, right? Or maybe you're the second string. Let's make you the second string. Now. So Bach is the second string at Nebraska. You played a really good ball. You played a really good year, but the guy in front of you is not. He's coming back. Could have went for the draft. He's coming back, and at your exit meeting with the coach, he said, "Look, Bach, unless something happens, you're probably going to be slide at number 2. We're bringing in someone else to play that will position. You're going to have to fight with him, for a backup there, whatever, right?" So Bach, you say, well, I know I'm not going to play here. I would love to play here, but they're not going to give me my shot that I think I deserve. I'm going to test myself elsewhere. And so logically, you would have to test it before the bowl games. Why would that make sense? Because first of all, they have money during that time, right? You don't want to wait until, let's say the bowl game for Nebraska in this situation is, December 29th or December 30th. Well, if you wait that long, let's say, the school you would go to is Kansas, right? If you were to hit it right away, that Kansas school, if you wait till after the bowl game, probably isn't going to have a spot for you and probably won't have no money. And we talked about the 40% of transfer portal athletes not going anywhere, right? So now you kind of can understand, okay, why are these guys entering so early? The loyalty, quote unquote, to whatever. Well, if you understand that, then it kind of makes sense. Okay, why would a guy like, XYZ, enter the portal now, right? So the fix to that is to close the portal during this time. Now that will cause, first of all, guys to participate more in the bowl game. And we already had, this past weekend, we already had an instance where, a well-respected, known player was getting flack for, Cam Ward for playing in the first half of the Miami game, obviously to get his record, right? He broke the record in that first half and, didn't play the second half, right? And now we have to understand, Cam Ward possibly is, top 3 draft pick, right? He's going to make well over, multi-million dollars and this and this. So you don't want to risk that, right? But at least he showed up for the game, right? And some people may say, well, play the whole, if you're going to play the whatever, if you're going to play the first half, play the whole game, right? And my response is he didn't have to do any of that. He didn't have to show up. Meaning pad up. He didn't have to pad up for the game. He could have been on the sidelines supporting. And then you on the flip side of it, you have your Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter of, Coach Prime says if you played this season, you're playing in the bowl game, right? And then you have, Kyle Monungai with Rutgers, didn't play. And, all these different guys didn't play during the bowl game. And, there's two sides to the coin, right? There's 2 sides to everything. There's a negative and a positive, right? If you're looking for the good, you'll find the good. If you're looking for the negative, you'll find the negative every single time. It's a law. It's inescapable, of course. But yeah, I think that would help out this NCAA, deal. And, to be honest, Bach and the viewers, there's plenty of things that could be fixed and sharpened up with the NCAA, but that would be my fix to it. We appreciate you tuning into the Locker Room today. I'm Chancellor Brewington. That's my man Bach over there. You're listening to the Locker Room on 93.7. The Ticket will be back tomorrow.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater